Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ecology Action Center Better Building Speaker Series. My name is Chris Benjamin. I'm a Senior Energy Coordinator at Ecology Action Center. I'm filling in for your usual host, Hannah Minslov, who is gloriously away in Spain, I think, at the moment, and doing some lovely travels to Germany as well. So we wish her well on her travels, but we're really pleased today to have Josh McLean here. But first, before we get to Josh, I would like to acknowledge that the Better Building Speaker Series takes place in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are grateful to live in this place that has been home to Elnu since time immemorial. We honor past, present, and future traditional knowledge keepers. We honor and support Indigenous sovereignty and the peace and friendship treaties that bind us all in relationship. As an environmental organization working in these lands and waters, we are committed to upholding our responsibilities as treaty people and to work toward decolonization and environmental justice. Today we're joined by Josh McLean, who will speak about EfficiencyOne's recent report, Energy and Poverty, and an Equitable Transition to a Net Zero Carbon Future in Nova Scotia. It details the level of energy poverty in Nova Scotia and recommends solutions on how energy efficiency can further reduce energy poverty while also helping to address equity. Josh has worked in the energy efficiency, small-scale renewable, and climate change mitigation sector for more than 20 years. This includes working for nonprofit organizations in 3 provinces, government, and as part of the first group of staff at Canada's first energy efficiency utility, Efficiency Nova Scotia. Specific to energy poverty, Josh helped establish what is now known as the Home Warming Program when it began in late 2006 and early 2007, although it was under a different name. So Josh, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us today. You have the floor for the next 30 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up to questions. And if anyone has any questions as Josh is speaking, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'd be happy to relay them to him at the end of his 30 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to the Ecology Action Center for having me here today. And thanks to everyone for joining the webinar. I'm very happy to be here. Chris, can you just confirm you can see I'm sharing my screen now? I just want to make sure you can actually see the title slide. Is that right?
I'm not seeing it yet.
Oh, then I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, there it is.
All right, perfect. So, all right. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Josh McLean. I'm the Strategic Planning Manager here at EfficiencyOne. I'm going to give about a 30-minute presentation today. And as you can see on the screen, there's really 5 segments to the presentation. So I'll start off by doing a brief introduction of EfficiencyOne and Efficiency Nova Scotia. Then I'll get into energy poverty and what that really means in Nova Scotia. And then as Chris mentioned, I'm going to focus on energy efficiency and how that is an effective and long-term solution to addressing energy poverty. And then we'll end with some recommendations that we had put forward late last year. So just to give a brief overview of EfficiencyOne and Efficiency Nova Scotia. So EfficiencyOne is a nonprofit organization. We are an independent organization. We're not part of government. We're not part of a utility. However, and we do have an independent board of directors. We've got 3 areas of business, and I'm going to be focusing on the one in the middle here, which is Efficiency Nova Scotia, but I'll just briefly touch on the other 2 areas of business for some context. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see EfficiencyOne Services. This is consulting work that we do outside of Nova Scotia. And then on the right-hand side of the screen is reference to our Halifax Climate Investment, Innovation, and Impact Fund. This is one of 7 Low Carbon Cities Canada centers in the country, and with a focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the Halifax area. But as I mentioned, I'm going to focus on Efficiency Nova Scotia today. Within Efficiency Nova Scotia, this is the majority of the work that we do. We've got programs to support energy efficiency upgrades, electricity demand reduction and electricity demand management, small-scale renewable incentives as well. And within Efficiency Nova Scotia, we're actually funded by both the government, so it's provincial and federally funded, as well as funded by Nova Scotia ratepayers. And where for the funds that originate from Nova Scotia Power ratepayers, these are actually regulated activities. So we report to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board, and as Chris mentioned earlier, we're actually Canada's first energy efficiency utility. So with Efficiency Nova Scotia, we've got over 24 programs now. This includes programs, as I mentioned, on energy efficiency and a variety of other things. And we've got programs for all sectors. This includes residential sector, business, nonprofit, industrial, institutional, and so forth. And our first full year concluded in 2011. So we were kind of got underway in late 2010, but really had a first full year under our belt in 2011. Now, if you look at all of the energy efficiency upgrades that have happened since 2011, all of the upgrades have a certain lifespan where they continue to produce energy savings. If you look at the energy savings that continue to persist today from all the upgrades that have happened over the last 12 to 13 years, those actually translate into significant greenhouse gas emission reductions in our province. So we're actually saving or reducing over 1 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, each year in the province due to those upgrades. Now, for context, the province currently emits around 14.5 million tons as a whole. If you also look at all of the financial benefits you get from those energy efficiency upgrades that our customers have taken, our customers have done in their buildings since 2011, and you look at the lifespan of how long those energy efficiency upgrades are going to continue to produce energy bill savings, Nova Scotians as a whole are actually saving more than $4.8 billion in lifetime energy bill savings, which is significant. And as part of all of our programs, we've got a portfolio of programs for low to modest income Nova Scotians, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today is stemming from a paper that we put out last year. This is called Energy Poverty and an Equitable Transition to a Net Zero Carbon Future in Nova Scotia. This paper actually follows a paper we put out in 2021. Our paper in 2021 was focused on, what are the main components to getting Nova Scotia to a net zero carbon future by 2050. And as part of that paper, we expressed that considering energy poverty and equity are key components to getting to a net zero future. Now, our area of expertise is energy efficiency. So when I talk about energy poverty and equity today, it's within the context, or the discussion's really focused on how energy efficiency can help people in energy poverty and how energy efficiency programs can continue to consider equity. So this is important because getting to a net zero future equitably will mean doing more for some communities and some individuals, so that everyone has the opportunity to benefit from energy efficiency improvements, which translates into lower energy bills. The paper's on our website, and there will be a link at the end of the slide deck as well. So let's start with what is energy poverty. This means different things to different people, but what it really boils down to is an individual or households that are struggling to pay their energy bills while maintaining a basic standard of living. In our paper, we actually talked to a variety of nonprofit organizations across the province who are helping people in need, and a lot of those people in need are experiencing energy poverty. We've integrated these sections within our paper called Voices from the Community, and that we put those in there intentionally to help tell the story of what it actually means to be in energy poverty. For some people, it involves making the decision between actually putting money out there and buying food, or buying heat through energy, through purchasing energy for your household. In some cases, we've actually heard of people intentionally turning off their electricity in the late spring and then bringing it back up in early fall because they didn't have the money to forward electricity over those months. For other people, it also involves living in unhealthy living conditions where you could be sleeping in the cold, where you might have mold situations in your house. And some other stories we've heard were also about people not being able to buy medication because they were paying their energy bills. So as you can see, this can be an ongoing and significant source of stress for people that are experiencing energy poverty. And in a lot of the cases, if not all of them, but in most cases, what we heard is that the high energy bills are one of many issues that the individual or the household is facing. And that's why we're focusing on energy poverty today, and a little bit later on the benefits of energy efficiency about reducing those bills. So energy poverty as a whole is affected by three main factors. It's affected by how much does energy cost, how much energy are you using, and then how much money do you actually have to pay for the energy that you're using. So the most common threshold that is used to determine whether or not, or I guess it's a metric to determine whether or not a household is in energy poverty, is that if the household spends more than 6% of their take-home income, so their after-tax income, on home energy use. So this doesn't include energy that would be used for, gas for your vehicle or a bus pass or anything like that. So not including transportation, but just the energy used in your home. If you're spending more than 6% of your take-home income on energy used in the home, you are deemed to be in energy poverty. So EfficiencyOne is fortunate that we have access to a lot of data. So when we decided to write a paper about energy poverty, we also developed this energy poverty dashboard, or this energy poverty tool behind the scenes as well. So if you look at the three factors that I mentioned before, how much energy do you use, how much money do you have, and how much does energy cost, we integrated all of those into this energy poverty dashboard. So we know how much energy is being used. We've got very good data on that. We've got thousands of home energy assessments that have been done. We have access to electricity account use at the residential level. And on the income side of things, we also have income data at the postal code level. So we have a very good understanding of how much energy people are using, and we have a good understanding at a postal code level about how much, what the income levels are within that area. We also have housing stock data, so that includes things like the size of the home, the age of the home. And then we're lucky to have a talented data scientist here internally who used Power BI to build a tool that can estimate how many people in Nova Scotia are experiencing energy poverty. So the tool is built in a way that actually allows us to put in the cost of energy by energy type. So we can put in the specific cost of electricity. We can put in the cost of home heating oil, propane, natural gas, and wood. And then when we update the values of these energy costs, we can then accurately predict how many households in Nova Scotia are experiencing energy poverty. So in December last year, when we released our paper, the estimate at the time was that 43% of Nova Scotian households were experiencing energy poverty. So this is a table from our report. And if you look at some of the details within the table over a 2-year period, so if we're just looking at the 2022 and 2023 year, the percentage of Nova Scotia households that are experiencing energy poverty actually ranges from 35% up to 48%. And that is exclusively due to the changes in energy costs over that 2-year period. So, as I mentioned earlier, our paper was released in December last year, and at that time, 43% of Nova Scotian households were in energy poverty. We actually just reran the numbers about a week and a half ago, and taking new energy price information that we have based on current prices, the number goes down slightly to 41% of Nova Scotian households experiencing energy poverty. This went down, sorry, the number overall went down due to a variety of factors within the energy mix, but overall electricity, the price went up since we put out the paper. The price of oil went down, natural gas and propane went up, and then wood was fairly stable. So when we dig into these details a little bit further, as of mid-July, so the numbers that we just reran, here's kind of a breakdown of the percentage of electrically heated homes that are experiencing energy poverty and a percentage of the non-electrically heated homes that are experiencing energy poverty. So when we look at the electrically heated homes, which is the center pie chart on the screen, we estimate that 18% of homes that are heated with electricity, primarily heated with electricity, are experiencing energy poverty. And when we look at the homes that are non-electrically heated, so this can be heated by oil, which is the most common, followed by wood, natural gas, and propane, almost 60% of those homes in Nova Scotia, or those households in Nova Scotia, which includes single-family dwellings as well as rental units, almost 60% of those households are experiencing energy poverty. The good news is that energy efficiency can provide significant reductions to the amount of energy being used in these households. And for over 17 years, there have been programs in Nova Scotia specifically to address people with low incomes and now moderate incomes as well, and help those people by providing energy efficiency upgrades to their building. In the early years, it was about piloting a few different approaches and getting a program up and running. And then since that time, we've had the momentum has grown, as has the support for these programs over time. I'm also happy to say that during this time, all of the three main political parties just happened to be in power over this time span in Nova Scotia. And each of those three political parties all provided support for reducing energy poverty by funding energy efficiency upgrades. So it first started with the Conservatives back when this timeline began, then the NDP, then the Liberals, and now again the Conservatives. So Efficiency Nova Scotia has 6. Well, we're almost to have 6. We're just about to launch the last program here, but we're about to have 6 programs that are specific to energy poverty and also addressing equity. So what I'm going to do now is spend a little bit of time going into the details of each of these programs. So the home warming program is a program for low-income homeowners. It's been around, as Chris mentioned at the beginning, since late 2006 when we first got it up and running, and then 2007 is when the home upgrades started to happen. And it's actually existed under a few different names over the course of that time. But essentially, it's a program for low-income homeowners. Participants of the program, they start the program and they end the program with an energy assessment. And the energy assessment at the beginning identifies opportunities in the house for energy efficiency upgrades. It also considers building science principles so that we look at ventilation rates, any moisture concerns in the house, because we want to make sure that we're not creating any problems by putting in insulation or different upgrades that might take place. We need to make sure we're considering the health of the occupants and the health of the building as well. So in the early days, we actually piloted a few different approaches to the program. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it gained some momentum. Where we're at now is that it's essentially a turnkey program. So once the homeowner signs up, there is no cost to participate. They get an energy assessment. We are responsible for hiring all the contractors to do the work. The homeowner needs to sign off on which upgrades they would like to do that we offer. The contractors do the work. We pay the contractors. We follow up with an energy assessment at the end to identify how much energy has been saved. And then at that point, the homeowner is in a house where they are likely to receive some significant energy bill savings. For homes that are heated primarily with electricity, the average annual energy bill savings are just over $850. And if you happen to be in a non-electrically heated home, for example, an oil heated home, those participants are saving roughly $1,700 each year on their energy bills. In 2022, Efficiency Canada put out a report, and they actually identified that this program was the program that saved the most amount of energy of any low-income energy efficiency program in the country. And we actually had the second highest level of annual participation by capita, just behind PEI. Since the beginning of the program, over 25,000 homes have gone through the program, and upgrades tend to include things like insulation, draft proofing, and I'm very happy to say that fairly recently we've been able to add heat pumps to non-electrically heated homes as well. The next program is our Mi'kmaq Home Energy Efficiency Project. This program officially got underway in 2018, although behind the scenes the year prior, so back in 2017, we were working with government and representatives of Mi'kmaq communities to help start up the program. It's similar to home warming in certain ways, and it was actually created in response to a gap that existed within home warming eligibility. So because the home warming program is specific to low-income homeowners, one of the gaps that we had is that in First Nations communities, a lot of the homes are actually owned by the community, they're owned by the band, rather than an individual or a family. So this program was put forward to help address that gap. We work directly with all 13 Mi'kmaq communities in the province, and it's actually the housing managers from the communities that decides which of the band-owned homes go through our program. Similar to home warming, we start with an energy assessment, which is similar to many of our other programs. And then once we identify the work that will be done, wherever possible, and actually in the majority of cases, we use band preferred contractors to actually complete the energy efficiency upgrades. So these are contractors that the community has worked with before, or that the community prefers, and we use those contractors wherever possible. Upgrades would include things like draft proofing, insulation, mini split heat pumps, heat recovery ventilators, and more. And then once the upgrades are done, an energy assessment is completed as with the home warming program, to identify how much energy has been saved. Recently, we've opened up the program to non-band owned homes in First Nations communities. So if there are community members that have a certificate of possession of their home, they are also now eligible to apply to this program. And over 1,000 homes have gone through this program so far. Next is our affordable multifamily housing program. This was officially established in 2018, though we had a pilot. We had it as a pilot under another program for a couple of years before that. And this program is for owners of multi-unit residential buildings that offer affordable rent to Nova Scotians. It can be for buildings of any size, so it could be 1 to 3 units, or it could be larger buildings. And the eligibility is not based on the tenant's income, so we actually don't verify or check the income of the people living in the building. Rather, the way that eligibility is considered is that it's the rental rate. So if the rental rate's at a certain level where it would be targeted to lower income Nova Scotians, then they're eligible for the program. So for any non-prescriptive rebates, the building starts with an energy assessment. The building owner then considers the recommendations, gets quotes, hires contractors, and then once they do the work, a final assessment is done. A final energy assessment is done. For most participants, rebates are up to 80% of the cost. This is 80% of the cost to do the energy efficiency upgrades in the building. However, in some cases, if you're a shelter or a transition house offering rent-free housing, you can actually get up to 100% of the costs paid for. As part of this program, it's important to us from the early days, it was important to us from the early days that the rents remain affordable. So if we're investing a lot of money into a building, we want to make sure that because the value of the building has gone up, the rents aren't going to then go up because of that. So we actually do have participant agreements that help prevent situations such as that. Next is our moderate income top-up. So last year, we were very pleased to launch a top-up on rebates through one of our existing programs. And this is a really important addition. So for households that are just above the home warming income threshold, they're still going to have challenges affording energy efficiency upgrades to their home. So what we've done is that we have another program called Home Energy Assessment, where you can get rebates up to $5,000 for doing things like, insulation, putting in heat pumps, and a variety of other things. And that program begins, like many of the other ones, with an energy assessment. So if you are a moderate income homeowner in Nova Scotia, you can go through this program. Your energy assessment is for free. You don't have to pay for that. And then you would go through the program as you would a regular participant through the home energy assessment program. So the participants are responsible for finding contractors, making decisions on what they want to do. It's not a turnkey service like home warming, but once the participant has made that decision, there is some of the funding available to help prepay for some of the upgrades. And then what we do is we provide a top up on the existing rebates that exist. So the maximum you can get through the regular home energy assessment program is $5,000, and then the top up is up to an additional $10,000. Because this program just launched last year, it's still too early to have metrics on annual participation rates, but we have seen homes completing projects this year already, which is great news, and we're very excited to see how this continues over the years. Our our oil to heat pump affordability program was launched this year. This program is just as it sounds. It's for oil heated homes who are looking to put in heat pumps. In total, you can actually get up to $30,000 for doing for oil heated homes to put in heat pumps, and that's a combination of federal and provincial rebates. And combined, this is actually a very significant a rebate, and it's actually not just for low-income homeowners, but it's also for median income homeowners as well. The great thing about this program is that you can actually use the money for a variety of things, which includes not just putting in heat pumps or a heat pump if it's a central system, but also putting in things like upgrades to your electrical panel, taking out your oil tank. If you did want to take out the oil tank, it's not required, but if you do that, you can use the money to help do that. To pay for backup electrical systems, heating systems, and also if you happen to have a standalone oil-fired hot water tank, you can get rid of that as well and put in an electric one and have that cost covered. Partial upfront payments are available to help cover with the costs, or to help cover the costs. And I'm very interested to see how this program rolls out over the years and the trends that we start to see. We've had a lot of positive uptake already, and as I mentioned earlier, this is the rebates in this offering are quite significant, and getting people off oil and onto heat pumps is really a key component to a net zero future. So very excited about this program. The way it works is that you can actually access it through one of our 3 programs, and there's a fair amount of kind of what if scenarios. So what we actually do is people who do apply for the program are actually directed to one of our program navigators who go through a series of questions to determine the best path forward. And then finally, our 6th program, which is which has not launched yet, so I actually don't have any details I can share, but other than the fact to share that we are having an initiative coming out soon. Also very excited about this. There's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes to get this up and running, and it is specific to African Nova Scotians communities. So because the program hasn't launched, I don't really have any details I can share at this point, but please stay tuned. Very excited about getting this one out the door as well. So our energy poverty dashboard, the tool that we created, allows us to show the effects of different scenarios, which includes, if you're going to save so much money, what does this mean? So, sorry, if you're going to save so much money on your energy bills, what does this mean for the overall rates of energy poverty in the province? This table here is just for demonstration purposes, but it really shows what happens. So if people are undertaking energy efficiency upgrades and saving a certain amount on their energy bills, if everyone did that was in energy poverty, here's what it would do to the levels of energy poverty in the province. This is just for demonstration purposes, but there's really two key considerations I wanted to point out here. The first is that the energy savings from energy efficiency persist for years. It's not that you're putting an energy, you're doing something, you're putting an energy efficiency upgrade for 1 year and then it kind of goes away the next year and your bills go back up. These energy efficiency savings persist for years, which means people save energy and save money on their energy bill for years and years and years. And even on top of that, as the price of energy continues to go up over time, the savings from these energy efficiency upgrades also continues to grow year by year by year. So looking forward, so we all know that energy efficiency gives long-term energy bill savings. And as I mentioned earlier, we're very fortunate to have had ongoing and even growing support to help addressing energy poverty in the province through energy efficiency. We've got 5 recommendations that we put out in our paper last year, and these are all around building on the efforts that we've had so far in this province. So the first recommendation is really building on what we're doing now and committing funding until at least 2030 to continue to help people in energy poverty through energy efficiency upgrades. Long-term funding commitments really allows for more efficient planning, and it gives the industry and our partners, the people who actually do the upgrades, it gives them a strong signal to invest further in their own resources to help support these programs over time. The second recommendation is to monitor the new programs. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got moderate income rebates, we've got the oil to heat pump affordability program, and we've got an African Nova Scotian community program coming up very soon. These are all programs that have had a lot of work done behind the scenes, but as they're launched, as we do with all of our programs, it's really important to monitor and evaluate them and then update as needed to make sure we're meeting the objectives of the program. The third one is to help address the gap that we do have. So our affordable multifamily housing program is really intended for low income renters. We do recognize that moderate income renters is an area that also requires more support, and it would be an area where funding would be required to be able to offer a program for moderate income renters. Oops, sorry about that. I went too fast. I'm gonna go back to sharing this again. Just give me 1 second. Sorry about that. And all right, so I'm gonna continue to talk while I bring up this presentation. So we have 2 other recommendations in our paper. The first is around, this doesn't seem to be working here. I'm not sure what's happening, but the first is around there. I believe you can probably see that now. So I'm gonna keep going as if you can. The fourth recommendation is really around achieving deeper energy savings. So as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot in homes and households already, and we always try and seek this balance of doing an appropriate amount of upgrades while at the same time helping as many people as we can. So let's say you've got $100,000 to spend. You can be asked the question, are you going to spend the $100,000 on 2 homes to make them as close to net zero as you can? Or do you put the $100,000 into 10 homes and give each of those 10 homes higher levels of energy savings? So this is something we continually consider as we do want to get into a net zero future. It's something we realize that that we need to continue to do more, and happy to say that we're actually we are actually doing more by putting heat pumps into homes. And finally, the recommendation last recommendation is really continuing to address barriers within the homes. So within our programs, we know there are people that are hard to reach, and we want to do more to help get those people into our programs, which means doing more outreach, helping them out to participate in our programs further. And the other barrier is also just looking at barriers with the building. So we do some things to help bring a building up to a certain condition to to ensure that we can then do energy efficiency upgrades. But there are some buildings where we just don't have the resources to bring the building to a certain point. We often then direct them to another provincial department to help go through another program. But that's one of the considerations we're giving, is that maybe there's things we can do more to help get some more buildings through the program as well. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and just want to say thank you to everyone for joining this evening. And Chris, over to you.
Thanks so much, Josh. That's super informative. I came in with some familiarity with your work, but it's really cool to kind of have it laid out program by program like that. And there were definitely some new details for me as well. So at this point, I didn't receive any questions in the comments, so I'll just open it up. If anyone has a question, feel free to jump in. We're a fairly small group, so I don't think we need to raise our hands. You're also welcome to turn your cameras on. No pressure, you don't have to, but if you want to, you're welcome to if you have a question, but you're also free to just shout it out. So I'll open the floor.
I have one question about the African Nova Scotian program. Do you have an idea when that's going to launch?
Not a specific date I can share, but it'll be before the end of the year and relatively soon.
Okay, thanks. And do you know if there's something related to the title issue and that sort of eligibility barrier?
So I can't really share any information until we launch it, but yeah, I'm sure that'll be a question that comes up and will be addressed at that time as well. Good. It's a very good question. I can't share the details right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Brian. Anyone else have a question for Josh?
Josh, I know from my own experience with energy poverty that seniors tend to be a particularly vulnerable group. Do you see any opportunity for a senior-specific programming at EfficiencyOne, or would that be more of a sector of outreach?
I think it's more the latter, a sector of outreach. I'm actually not. I don't have the demographics details of the participants that go through the program, but just, I mean, I haven't been directly involved with home warming for some time, but at the beginning, I'd say for about 6 to 7 years, I was very directly involved with that. It includes going to dozens of homes and making thousands of approvals on upgrades and so forth. But even just kind of talking with some of the participants and kind of knowing who was going through at that time, just through home visits and so forth, there was a fairly high proportion of the people that were seniors.
Yeah, but that demographic data is being collected by.
I'm not 100% sure what we would have internally on that. That would be something I'd have to look into and follow up with.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, when I was on the housing advisory committee or home warming advisory committee, that was one of the things that the people who were reporting to that group who were in the field were saying exactly what you said, that a lot of them are seniors. A high proportion are seniors.
Thank you, Kat.
The one other question I have, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, go, Brian. Jump in.
The one other question I have is this question of, like, where you do have access to Nova Scotia Power data, is there any consideration, or is it in practice? I know the savings are based on modeling, and is there any consideration for getting authorization from people who join the home warming program to allow you to monitor their actual energy use, so you can determine the savings, at least on the electricity side? It's harder, of course, on the other side, where it's not data that you have easily available.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually something that does get updated over time and is being updated now, because you're right, it's all based on an energy model. So in past years, we essentially deduct the amount of energy savings that the energy model predicts based on some of the information we had in past years. Now that we have access to even more, or sorry, very accurate electricity use data through our third-party evaluator, which we do annual evaluations every year. Through a third-party evaluator, they're actually doing a billing analysis of participants that go through not just homework, but any program where we're using modeled energy savings through HOT 2000. And we're going to be having updated assumptions that are being used following this year's evaluation.
Okay, will they be publishing like that comparison between the modeling and the, like, is that going to be in some form of report or something? Because I'd be very, very interested in seeing that.
Yeah, well, the result of the findings will definitely be included in our annual evaluation reports, because they'll be detailed to say, here's how we came up with the energy savings estimates, and what it kind of boils down to is the deductions from the energy model that we end up seeing based on, to help true it up with reality. But yeah, they'll be part of the annual energy evaluation reports.
Can I suggest that I mean, I know those evaluation reports are very dense.
Yeah.
And it's not the kind of thing I would likely be able to get through. And I'm one of the more engaged people. But I would really appreciate it as an engaged person to have some kind of publicly easily accessible statement about that.
Yeah. We can certainly, I'll make a note of that. I mean, it won't be until kind of March next year by the time those evaluation reports are done, but
Right.
yeah, I certainly agree with you. They're over 1,000 pages every year, so it's a lot to sift through.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
yeah.
never going to do it. I'm over my head, and or I'm done with going through really really detailed reports.
No, for sure.
But I think that one's an important enough one that it'd be really nice to have it in a very publicly easily accessible kind of report.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Infographic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that and follow up with a few people internally, but yeah, it'll probably be March next year by the time those details are actually shared and complete.
I have one other question, but since I've already talked so much, like Andrea, I'm wondering if Andrea has any questions, or if anybody else has any questions.
There are no questions from me. Sorry, no questions from me, but thank you.
Okay, or Sherry, did that?
Anyone else want to ask a question before Brian asks his next one? No, I think you can go ahead, Brian.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Chris, now I'm going to forget what it was. Oh, I know. With the affordable multifamily housing program, there's been some conversation behind the scenes about increasing the percentage subsidy, like there is for the shelters, it goes up to 100%. It seems to me it would make sense to do that also for private rentals where the tenant is responsible for the utilities.
Okay.
Because in a way that is very analogous to the home warming situation. And the home warming is 100%, so why not give tenants who pay the utilities 100% subsidy as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd have to take that back to the affordable multifamily housing team. If there are discussions being had, I'm not actually part of them myself, but I can certainly take that back to the team and then follow up.
Yeah, I mean, Charity and I have talked about that, so I have no idea if it's ever gone anywhere, but it's just something I've been interested in for some time. It sort of struck me that it is very similar to the home warming situation, and so there's a good rationale for doing that, I think.
Yeah, that's a good comment. I'll take that back and follow up with you on that.
Okay. I really appreciated the presentation. Sorry I was a little bit late. And involved in some emergency stuff here.
Yes, it was a wonderful presentation. I want to check in with the others who have been quiet, make sure, last chance, any questions for Josh? No, all right. So I'll once again say thank you so much, Josh. Really appreciate you doing this. You've got a good handle on a lot of data and information and access to a lot of different programs, even if you're not directly involved in them. So it's really great to get that overview and understand that approach. And it's really good to see that. Of course, some of us are still waiting on a provincial response to what they're going to do on the issue of energy poverty, but certainly we know efficiency always has to be a part of that for it to be a long-term solution. So it's really good to know that EfficiencyOne has taken it very seriously and is doing a lot of work on it. I want to, before I let everyone go, give a little plug for our next session. We're taking August off for the Better Building Speaker Series, but we've got a great guest on September 24th. Molly Merriman will speak about Adsum House's Sunflower Court passive design solutions. So Sunflower Court is a net zero ready 25 unit long-term rental housing development and community center for Adsum women and children, which is a local not-for-profit in Halifax, and it received the first round of federal Rapid Housing Initiative funding back in 2020. So it's really cool that they have used that for a net zero housing complex for 25 families and groups of people. So looking forward to that. Please watch for that on our website and in our Culture of Efficiency newsletter, which, by the way, is funded by Efficiency Nova Scotia. So you can sign up for that, and we'd love to see you then. But for now, I will close and let you all enjoy your evening. And once again, thanks to Josh. That was an excellent presentation.